Thank you, Richard, and thank you everyone for your time today. Hopefully you'll find this interesting and informative. I'm Julian Swan. I'm the CEO and engineering lead at PlasmaTrack, and Jess Logan is our product design engineer. And what I'm going to do is give a brief introduction to PlasmaTrack so you get a bit of context on our business. But what we're going to focus on, and I'm going to hand over control to Jess, is to present our DFT sponsored first of a kind program with regards to our leaves on the line sensor. And so if I can move on to the next slide. So PlasmaTrack is a railway technology company, which was born out of a RSSB sponsored development program around predictable and optimized braking. And what we have is plasma cleaning at our core technology. And we have been developing this over the last 8 years. And through the RSSB sponsor, we've now got to the point where we're in product approval with regards to the track cleaning. And we have various different products within our range. So we've got preventative and cleaning maintenance. So what you just saw was our high-powered plasma cleaning system that was mounted on a multi-purpose vehicle, but it can also be mounted onto a wagon and be part of a railhead treatment train. We also have a lower speed version which goes onto a road to rail vehicle and would be used in a possession and would be part of Network Rail's preventative maintenance. In the future, we want to actually miniaturize our technology and have it as an alternative to sanding systems on passenger and freight trains. So making those vehicles completely independent of the track conditions. So whether Network Rail or any other operator has cleaned the track, your passenger train or your freight train would be guaranteeing good and predictable and optimized braking conditions. So that's the core of PlasmaTrack. But while we were developing our plasma cleaning technology, we worked with the National Physical Laboratory to understand what the leaf layer was so that we could understand a before and after effect, so we could measure the effectiveness of plasma. And what we've uncovered is a spectrometry system, which Jess will explain in a bit more detail. And we've proposed multiple different embodiments that could be rolled out as part of understanding the track conditions. So we could have a handheld portable device that would be used by a mobiles operations manager, or we can have trackside data logging systems that start to get us an idea of what's happening throughout the network throughout the year. Eventually, we want to look at improving the performance and scanning of our system, which means it could actually be vehicle mounted and give a dynamic update of the network performance. And what we've got now is this DFT sponsored first of a kind program, which Jess is now going to introduce to take it from a piece of technology that is more suitable for maybe a PhD student and make it more railway ready. So I'm now going to hand over to Jess. Okay, where's the...
Yeah, I think
you've got control.
Yeah. So as Julian said, we're using this existing technology and adapting it for function on the railways. So we're using a Raman spectrometer, and it's basically a non-contact laser that helps identify any material compound that you scan. So the laser basically scans the material, and as it reflects back, it changes in frequency. And this frequency change is known as the Raman shift. And that's what helps identify what material you're scanning. So the device that we've been using is a Brooker Bravo device. This is a double laser. So it basically gives you a much larger frequency range, and it also gives you more accurate results. So the idea for this project is to reconfigure this Raman device to specifically target the leaf layer contamination on the tracks. So we've done some previous testing in Knorr-Brems on their Atlas rig, and it basically just gave us repeatable lab testing. We were able to build up leaf layer onto their rolling track wheel, and we were able to run the plasma cleaning system onto the leaf layer buildup, and basically take before and after Raman results. So I'm hoping this video is playing. So on the right, we've got the Raman rig setup. So this is basically taking Raman results before and after the cleaning, and identifying how much leaf layer has been removed, if any. The results, we also collected friction results. So we took before and after images of the leaf layer buildup. We took before and after Raman results, and we also took before and after friction results. The zoomed in area shows when the plasma was turned on, and there was a significant step change in friction. So friction actually reduced after cleaning, and we can also see that the Raman intensity is reduced. So all of these previous testing that we did enabled us to apply for the DFT-sponsored First of a Kind project, which we were granted in October. So this is a 12-month DFT project, and it's basically to simplify the existing Raman device that we have, and optimize it for the use on the railways with mobile operating managers. So as part of this project, we've carried out scoping exercises where we've been speaking to stakeholders, mobile operating managers, seasonal delivery managers, and basically building up an understanding of existing inspection systems and sort of how they're currently cleaning and inspecting the tracks. As you can see, this image is the contamination scale that they're using currently. So mobile operating managers basically go out and inspect the tracks and use this scale to see whether it's dirty or not. The issue with this is there isn't any scientific data to show, well, what is clean, what is bad, what is good. It's basically just looking at an image and seeing whether it matches what the image says. So as part of our program, we need to develop 4 first-of-a-kind demonstrators. And this will be used by Network Rail for functional testing this autumn. As part of the program, we've already carried out in-field testing in Newcastle on the Nexus Metro and at Suddingdale. And we will be continuing in-lab testing on the Harold rig in Sheffield, in Huddersfield, where we'll be able to build up an understanding of leaf layer versus friction versus delay, and actually take some repeatable in-lab testing. So does anybody have any questions, or Julian, do you want to?
I think if you could step back a couple of just one more slide. One of the key findings that we're trying to unpick is the connection between what is seen on the track and how does that relate to frictional performance. And as Jess showed in the images that Network Rail work to, they have 3 different levels, going from level 0, which is completely clean, bright steel, through to level 3, which would be the level that was seen during the Salisbury incident and reported by RAIB. And what we've been trying to understand during the development of our plasma cleaning technology and also using the Raman is to try and relate that in a way that's repeatable in terms of we work with the moms from Network Rail, and it's down to a sort of visual opinion. And what we're trying to do is move away from that sort of subjective to more objective. And also what we feel is missing from, what Network Rail needs to understand is at what point does this become a problem? When is the track condition good enough that we're still operating, whether it's good enough for adhesion and slips and slides or track circuit continuity? And at what point does it become a problem? And how you then decide when you should, step in and clean the track. And so that will really build on, operational performance aspects. So when we've been doing our stakeholder reviews, we've been involving obviously the moms, but the seasonal delivery specialists, the route directors, to try and understand how they're making their decisions on have they cleaned, when do they inspect, how frequently do you inspect. So you can see from this slide, what we're trying to do is actually, as I was always asked by the RSSB when we were doing our plasma development, so what? At what point or what measure? It's no point just measuring a friction value. It's what does that then affect in terms of the network performance, and how do we then know what we should do and if what we've done is appropriate. And this is all backed up by the latest Salisbury RAIB report, where they were challenging Network Rail to say, what technology do you currently use, and how do you know that when you've done an intervention, it's actually moved the dial in the correct amount to the right level? So this is partly why DFT sponsored this program, is that it aligns perfectly with not only having new innovation with regards to track cleaning, but having a methodology that allows you to then say, I have cleaned or I should clean, and when I have cleaned, it is at the right level. And then understanding the dynamics of that. We know that the leaf layer is formed where there are trees, but also the vehicles themselves pick up the black leaf layer on their wheels and redeposit it in different areas. So it's a very dynamic system. And the output from this will be, as Jess says, demonstrators that can be deployed by Network Rail and get more and more data. And then we can build on that in terms of the process methodology that will then feed into Network Rail's whole seasonal delivery scheduling. Happy to take any questions, Richard, if you want to run down.
Yeah. Okay. No, well, thanks for that, guys. Yeah, obviously, quite an interesting topic. There's no questions in the chat yet, so if anyone does have any questions or just want to put their hand up, and we'll come to them if they just want to ask the question. I guess from me, we've seen quite a few presentations now on machine learning, and obviously using that for prediction of vegetation growth, and obviously management of vegetation by the side of the railway. So is that something, obviously once you start collecting the data and you learn more about where this is happening and why it's happening, is that something you could maybe link in with? Because it's Network Rail, obviously, again, but is that something you guys would look to incorporate maybe?
Absolutely, and it's not just a one measure gives you the sort of prediction of the network's performance. It is down to weather. It's down to how the leaves transition from falling off the tree to then on the top of the railhead. And when we've been working very closely with the Nexus Light Railway, they've been sharing data, and that's why we don't actually have that, but for sharing on this meeting, but they share the leaf level that it's on the trees and how it then deteriorates or drops from the trees onto the, into the cess and onto the track. And there does need to be that tie up between the mechanism. I know there's been a lot of research done where, they talk about 200 axle passes needed to convert from a leaf that you would slide on the footpath with to something that's become that black Teflon-like material. But we're not sure if that's 200 axle passes in a short period of time, or there's going to be lots of different aspects to that. We do know from our trials that we've been doing with regards to the plasma cleaning that there is a standard signature, and we got measurements in Scotland on the Aroka line. We were in Wales on the Nathan Brecken line, and we were also setting up leaf layers in Knorr-Brems in Austria, and we were getting a consistent signature that in terms of the ramen, it was indicating cellulose acetate, and another protein, tyrosine, and the intensity level indicated you had the black leaf layer. It didn't matter whether it was an oak leaf or a sycamore leaf. Once it's converted with the steel or the iron oxide, these are the signatures that we've been measuring. That having been said, that was when we were focusing on the plasma development. What we want to do now, exactly as you said, we're working with specialists in terms of machine learning to analyze, to understand if there's other patterns within our data set. We're working with a company called Fishbones. They specialize in data analysis, and you can look at it from two directions. You can look at it from a point of view of, I know what I'm looking for and I want to filter for that. So that pushes the data through in a certain way. But you can also let the machine learning to say, here's all of the data. Do you see any other patterns? And what we need to then relate that to is the frictional properties, which is why we do our lab testing on the Harold or the Atlas rig. Also the track circuit condition. So the continuity or the conductivity on the railhead, because the leaf layer acts as an insulator. And when that becomes a problem, when you start to see track circuit failures or wrong side of track circuit, when the friction level drops below 0.14 mu, and you start to encounter adhesion problems either from acceleration or braking, and when that starts to cause problems like wheel slips and spads, these are all the KPIs that Network Rail are asked to measure performance on. But what we're trying to do is we're using the Raman as a device to give us a repeatable scientific measure of the material, but we then need to relate that to these different outcomes and performance measurements. And I think that's where our program for DFT really excited them. It wasn't just a case of, here's a bit of science, isn't it really interesting? We can give you a scientific measure. It's like, how does it then influence and help the rest of the network to know at this level, at this point, we could intervene at a maybe quicker or lower, faster deployed system, or we should wait until there's a higher level build up and we're doing a deeper clean. So it's a bit like cleaning your oven. No one likes doing it, but if you keep on top of it, it's a bit easier than waiting until it's really baked on, so this is all part of the output from this program.
Excellent. I like that of the analogy.
Yeah,
I paid someone to do mine the other week, which is
I can see there's a few questions.
Yeah. So we've got that's great. We've got a few questions coming there. So we'll go to Ben. Who came up first. Will the FOAK project only focus on leaf contamination, or will you look at other third body layers such as rust, etc.?
The quick answer is yes. The Raman spectrometer basically, as it stands, can analyze any material. So it's used in pharmaceutical industries. It's used by the Met and other police forces for checking drug purities. So it can actually tell you anything, anything from carbon to zinc. And to that point that we were saying about machine learning, we want to get the full spectrum and start to build on that. But for the sort of hook that we put on for this DFT program, we already knew there was 3 core signatures that reflected leaf layer. To add to that as well, I think it'll also help with other things like traction gel application, because you'll be able to measure the material that's being put down. So if you've cleaned the track, you can measure its clean, bright steel. If you come along and put a sandite or equivalent TG dial down, you can actually measure how much and when it's there and when it's being worn off as well. So there's lots more that we're learning from the stakeholder interviews that Jess has been doing that would build on that as well. So it's not just leaf layer, it's the usual sort of like leaves on the line being the hook for the project, but it's much deeper than that, Ben.
Okay, excellent. Next message from Russell Taylor. How will the device differentiate between a clean running band and a leaf layer contamination across the remainder of the railhead? Similar to what you just said, I think, but yeah.
Jess,
do you want to answer that with regards to the scanning?
I'm not really sure. What does that mean? Differentiate between clean running band. Is that as in how are we going to scan the whole railhead? Is that what they're saying? I
guess so, yeah. Across the remainder of the railhead.
Oh, unless it means are we just scanning the area that we need to be scanning. I think the idea with this program, so this 12-month program, we're looking into specifically developing the handheld device. So this is going to be used by the mobile operating managers on their daily, weekly inspections. So for this demonstrator model, we're only going to be scanning certain areas of the track, probably focusing on the high risk sites. But the idea is that once the technology develops, we'll be able to implement the Raman onto the front of the trains and actually have them scanning real time, being able to scan the whole of the track. I don't know whether that answers the question.
We'll find out. Okay, so another question from James. I think it may have a couple of questions, but for the clarity, the study in both monitoring and removal of contamination, is the plasma cleaning different to the laser cleaning used in the industry, and does the system remove other contaminants?
So we are different. It's a different phenomenon, plasma. Plasma is a transition. So you've got 4 energy states. You've got solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. So plasma is generated by applying a high voltage to a gas. And in our case, it's a nitrogen gas. And what that does is it pulls apart the gas into electrons and ions, and that's then delivered as a beam, and that's what you saw in the first video. So that beam is different to laser. It's more robust in terms of the head itself. There's no delicate optics, and it's used in industry for cleaning and deposition of materials. And so the nitrogen system we've developed is suitable for the railhead, so it doesn't impact the metallurgical properties of the railhead, but it does remove leaf layer and other contaminants, including oxide layer. So it can be used to bring back clean, bright steel where there's corrosion, and it can remove oils and flange greases as well. And it is a different phenomenon to laser. Laser is a completely different methodology. We believe, obviously, that ours is more robust and suitable for the railways. It's a simple solid metal nozzle that delivers the plasma. And my argument is always like, if you can hit it with a sledgehammer and it doesn't affect it, it's suitable for the railways. And so we believe we've got a very, very robust and also environmentally sound solution. It uses nitrogen from the atmosphere. It doesn't carry bottles of nitrogen, so it doesn't have any consumables. And compared to the water jetting system, that's why Network Rail are very interested as well, because it can, as soon as you're up to speed, it can be cleaning all of the track for the entire circuit. Whereas with water jetting, they switch on and off for other reasons, saving the waters for the high incident spots, but also crossings, platforms, and points. Water jetting can cause problems with the ballast.
Excellent. Okay, so Peter Woodbridge, have you knowledge of how much axle load affects adhesion when there is contamination on the rail surface? Presumably more wheels give greater contact area, but does a reduced axle load partially reduce this?
Well, this is where the Harold rig and the Atlas rig are really, really critical to this. The way they're set up, you can see the bogie there in the Harold rig. There's basically a hydraulic system that puts a loading on the bogie, so you can actually simulate anything from a light rail vehicle through to a freight train. And when we did our adhesion testing on the Atlas rig, that was at 55 kilonewton contact patch, and that was for light railway. They tend to slip and slide under braking, or under acceleration and braking more than the freight setup. So there is definitely a parameter there that when it comes to the sort of basic 3 levels that Network Rail are working to, they then have to make the sort of understanding of what vehicle is going to be running on their track, and that's what we feel is sort of missing as well, is that if you've got a sort of light railway track like Nexus, for example, it's going to be more sensitive to changes in the contamination level, whereas maybe a freight line on the flat won't be, but on an incline it will be. So there are so many parameters that will help or need to be part of that decision making, rather than just a standalone device that just says this is the leaf layer level, or this is the oxide layer, or there's other contamination. You do need to understand the context of the track as well and its utilization.
Yeah, interesting. That's a question similar. Well, I think you might have just answered it there. So anyway, okay, carrying on. Mike Andrews, I assume this is a one-hit treatment, so from a cost point of view, several visits would be required. If you have an area of high leaf fall, this would have a cost implication.
And this is part of our first of a kind unpicking this as well. I know Ben's on from the RSSB. I think the first day we started the predictable optimized braking program, we asked them what is good, what is bad, what is good enough, and it starts a huge debate. With regards to the system in terms of cleaning, we have designed it to operate from the worst case leaf layer to clean bright steel at 60 miles per hour in one pass. And that was the challenge that Network Rail set us with regards to our future technology trial demonstration. But quite rightly, and this is part of our sort of future rollout as well, if you imagine every train having a much smaller version that just removes a small amount of material, you can use less energy to remove that material and maintain it at a good level before you let it drift into that sort of, as I use the oven as an example, don't let it get really dirty, keep it clean, and it's a bit much easier. Now, with regards to how that works out in terms of cost, we're working through that with Network Rail with their operational costs, but we know even just from a water saving point of view, we can have parity between plasma and water jetting. So we will then be able to build on that in terms of efficiency and effectiveness. So you're absolutely right. A few quick light cleans are better than a slower heavy clean, for a better word. And the costing of that we're working through that with Network Rail, and it is different for each of the routes and regions as well. The route directors have got different costs, and depends on the busyness of their track and the frequency of the cleaning.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Mike. Moving on to Justin Stroud. Interested to know where it is in use. Does PlasmaTrack have a contract with NR or any other infrastructure managers in Europe?
So we've completed a demonstration trial with Network Rail, and we are now going through the process of product acceptance for the MPV and RHTT mounted system. And we are doing some further product acceptance activities with Network Rail Wales through support with Nick Millington, who's the route director there. We have a product national sponsor in Brian Haddock, and he's very supportive of us with regards to the technology, partly because of the RAIB report as well, but also because he's seen us move from the sort of R&D technology company into something that's now much closer to a product acceptance. And so this year, we're hoping to complete the product acceptance and have some pilot demonstrations with Wales and Western, Anglia, and hopefully Scotland as well. And so there is a PQQ out at the moment for CP7, and we've expressed interest in that, and we're part of that review process at the moment. So still within the sort of product acceptance process, but very much working very, very closely with Network Rail. With regards to the rest of Europe, as you can see, we've been working with Knorr-Bremse. They're very interested in our technology. We're also putting partnerships together with Windhoff, who produce the MPVs. And this year at Rail Live, we will have a combined demonstration with Windhoff and PlasmaTrack at Rail Live, where we'll be doing a little sort of 5 mile per hour demonstration there as well. And I think there's a few others with TransLink in Northern Ireland and Irish Rail. And we're also reaching out to North America. We've got some support from Network Rail Consulting to get us out in North America. Our focus has been on the UK, and it's been, part funded development through Innovate UK. We're now a completely separate limited company that has equity investment and VC investment. So we're focusing on the UK, and I think that's the right thing to do. That's our sort of on our doorstep and where the previous fundings come in. But definitely it's something we have ambitions to go global, definitely into Europe and North America.
Excellent. And finally, first was hand up, the last question, unfortunately. Richard Craddock, are you aware of Aquarius and their fleet of RRV vehicles that supplement the RHTTs for hard to get to spots?
Yes, we are, Richard. And if we'd done our bigger presentation, you would see an Aquarius Land Rover and Road to Rail trailer. That was they were one of the first companies that supported us to get on track, and we did testing in the early days within a possession using Aquarius Rail, and that was in the Wales region for Neath and Brecon line, and as I mentioned, up in Aroka in Scotland. So we're very aware of Aquarius. We also worked with SRS, who have bigger vehicles, lorry-based road to rail vehicles. The interesting thing is the hard to get to spots. Some of these are down to axle loading and not necessarily physical gauge. And what we find is we are actually much lighter than a water jet system. So where there would be maybe on the face of it a requirement for a road to rail possession-based cleaning, we can actually consider putting an RHTT because we don't have the tonnage of the water. And so we can actually get into some of those hard to get to spots that are based on an axle loading challenge. So that was very interesting that we uncovered that recently. So somewhere like Oakhampton, which actually has one of the worst leaf layer challenges, but has the sort of axle challenges. We believe we can get in there with our MPV or with an RHTT wagon setup and do that still at 60 miles per hour. So very much aware of Aquarius and other, Geismar and SRS, and we're in communication with all of those. But it's interesting that when you're not lugging around, 222 million liters of water every season, you're suddenly a much lighter, nimble solution.
Okay, excellent. Well, thanks for the questions, everybody. Some really interesting points raised there. Really appreciate it. Excellent presentation. Thank you, Julian and Jess.
Sorry, there's just a couple more there I've seen.
Oh, is that? Sorry. Oh my gosh. Where?
Toby Johnson. Why does your solution identify contamination rather than friction? Friction measurement is very, very difficult. When you're comparing the contact patch that a vehicle creates versus something like, as Jess showed on there, we had a push tribometer. The contact conditions are completely different. And so we've found that those sort of mobile manual friction type devices struggle to give accurate or repeatable compared with the measures you would see either on the Atlas or Harold rig, or actually in a real vehicle. So what we're trying to do is then join the dots between what is physically on the railhead and potentially on the wheels. So the wheels do pick up as well, and then understand the steps from that level of contamination to a friction value, which then relates to a potential delay value or a slide possibility, or a creation of wheel flats and stuff like that. So it is trying to join all of those dots up.
Hopefully I think maybe just to add to that as well, Julian, the Raman, currently we're using it for leaf layer buildup, but this device is capable of sort of looking at anything on the track, and that's the metallurgical track condition or any kind of contamination. So there's a whole range of possibilities further down the line that we could do with the Raman, compared to just taking frictional results.
And then Taylor's got a question. Is this something intended to replace swab testing post an incident? So we were at the ARG before Christmas and we heard the RAIB report. And so it very much is something that could replace swab. This gives you an instantaneous measure, so you don't have to take material away and get it analyzed in a lab. So from the Railway Accident Investigation Branch are very interested in this. They're one of our key stakeholders on this program as well. And so I would hope that this becomes a more rapid, more accurate method, replacing the swab testing. And it should be more cost effective as well, because we know that the cost of the lab swab testing is quite prohibitive. And that's why Network Rail have it as a methodology, but it's not generally adopted because of cost and the time to report against it. And so this system addresses some of those requirements as well. And like I say, RAIB are very interested in this as well as Network Rail.
Yeah, I apologise, I can't see those questions. I don't know why they've not come up on my chat. Is there any more questions?
I've got a question about producing poisonous gases. No, we're basically thermally ablating materials, and we've done some NOx testing where we've been looking at the off gassing, and there's nothing that would be at a level that would be of any worry. It is very much a clean green solution that we've developed in terms of the plasma cleaning. And then James Richard has asked, high voltages to create plasma, any impact considerations with respect to EMC, immunization of signaling, E and P assets. So yes, we part of our development, we had a hazard review, we have a risk register, and with support from Eurofins, that used to be known as York EMC, we have checked track signaling, EMC, all of the equipment that could potentially be affected by high voltage and signals, and we've got a clean bill of health on that respect.
Okay, yeah, as I say, I'm not sure why those questions have come through, but I know
that's everything I can see, Richard.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant.
I like the fact that the questions took longer than the presentation.
All good, and often the way with the PWI, but it's no, there's some really good questions there, and I think it's raised some really good points. So again, we'll draw a line under the questions there, just in case any more sneak through. Thank you, Jess and Julian. We've got trains now with laser scanners and cameras, and now they've got plasma guns on them. They're getting pretty futuristic all the time. So we can, if we can all just kind of we usually ask people to react with a round of applause for the presenters. It's just something we do in Manchester.
Hey, look at that.
And yeah, guys, again, really interesting presentation. Thank you very much. Just a reminder, on the 6th of Feb, we've got the Trends Planning team talking about the important role of quality infrastructure in the railway. And then on the 20th of Feb, we've got rail track bed research at the University of Southampton. Slight plug for the north, people in the north. We have a conference coming up on the 7th of March, I believe, off the top of my head, on sustainability. Have a look on the PWI website about that. If you want to ask any more questions or you want to continue the conversation with the guys, then there is a dedicated post on the PWI LinkedIn where it'll be we'll have links to the organisation, etc. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed it. Okay.